Because I think you knew you were about to get fucking exposed.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Why?
Why? There's points where you didn't want to
decision.
go to therapy. You didn't even want to show up. You said there was times where you were so angry you didn't even want to show up.
Mm-hmm.
There was times where you yelled at the therapist. You're like, why are you fucking taking his side?
Yeah, because that's how I felt. Time.
Yeah. Yeah. To the women or to the men out there, what is one piece of advice you'd give about therapy?
I would say that
Did you take your diarrhea medicine?
Did you?
Before we shoot, did you take your diarrhea medicine?
Did you take your diarrhea medicine?
Oh, Lizzie. What'd you come up with in your journal?
Well, I was just looking back at everything that we were, or everything that I was feeling back when we started, first started dating. And I don't know, it's interesting to go back and read how I was feeling and everything that we were going through.
Yeah.
There were some really hard times, but then also
What specifically?
I think we were just fighting a lot.
Yeah.
And it was honestly questioning whether or not this was the right relationship, and if we were meant to be, or if we were too different for each other to be able to make it work. So I don't know, it's interesting to look back.
Yeah, I was reading through my journals, and it's interesting because we started dating in 2016. 2017 was this honeymoon phase, and then we got into our first fight in Positano, Italy, because you were being a diva about the bags. You remember this?
Kind of. I remember fighting on the steps.
Yeah.
Late at night.
Yeah. So we got into a fight in Positano, but I think what really kicked it off was I was reading through my journals, and I always felt that I was never, no matter what I said, my emotions and my feelings and whatever I was going through, you never listened to back then.
Yeah. That's interesting because that's kind of what I wrote about too.
Well, what'd you write about?
Just us fighting a lot and feeling like I wasn't heard. And I think we were just we were both feeling kind of disconnected. But it's interesting to look back at where we were and now where we are, because I feel in the past you would say something I feel disconnected from you, and I would be well, no, I would take it as if something was wrong with me. And now I feel we can actually have those conversations and be okay, well, what do we want to do about it if we're feeling disconnected?
Yeah, but why did we get into therapy? Nobody gives a fuck about why, how we're having these conversations now. Why did we get into therapy? Because it's great that our relationship is improving now, and there's a lot of work to do, but do you remember why we got into therapy?
Because we wanted to try and make it work.
But do you know, I get that, but do you remember everything that led up to that? There's 2 years of us just going toe to toe every fucking day, almost.
Yeah.
It started with, do you remember what it all started with?
No.
I think it all started with the engagement ring.
Oh, it was happening before that though.
Was it?
Yeah. Because we didn't get engaged until 2018.
Yeah. And we only dated for
2017.
Okay.
We started dating, and the journals that I was looking back at are from 2017 of how we were just fighting every single week and feeling disconnected in the relationship and not heard. And I think we were trying to figure out, because things move fast in our relationship. We hit it off at the Broncos Christmas party. Then I came home, I think early from Christmas to go skiing, and we were hanging out all the time because I was finally done dancing professionally. And then like a few months later, we moved in.
6 months later, we moved in together.
So, yeah, 6 months
But
later.
you went to Coachella, you went to Italy, and then we moved in together.
Yeah, all fun and amazing things, but I feel like we were still kind of in that phase of like getting to know each other, and like
Yeah.
you don't really know each other until you move in with each other.
Yeah.
And yes, we were spending a lot of time at each other's like houses or apartments, but having to like live together, and we were working together, so we were together all of the time, I think was a lot.
Yeah.
Because we were just, it's good to have space when
Well,
you're
yeah,
a significant
yeah,
other.
and I even remember there was a point in 2018 where like we'd sold your car and we were down to one car. Mm-hmm. And I just remember like that there was one journal entry where I'd woken up, I'd made the breakfast, I'd fed the animals, and I'd gone to Ace Hardware to go pick up a filter for the house because the heat was out. And then when I got back, you still weren't ready. And when I brought it up to you, right, you said that I wasn't ready, and you blatantly lied to my face about it. I think I'm still heated about it because I just read it the other day. But I was just like, what the fuck? Like, how are you going to continue just to blame me for everything?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. I think I
You don't
just,
need to apologize. I'm just saying, like,
I think I just had a hard time accepting responsibility, especially like time was one of the huge things that we always fought about, because you were coming from the military and like super timely and organized and all these things, and like I did not grow up that way. Like my dance teacher used to tell me that I would be late to my own funeral because I was just always late.
yeah.
But
You've gotten way better at that. I think one of the things I think about is just like how far off, like we weren't off on our major values, right? The way that we wanted to treat each other, the relationship that we wanted, what we expected from ourselves. But I also believe that you and I had come out of two relationships that had hurt us pretty tremendously, and we didn't know how to come together as individuals.
yeah, 1000%.
Do you remember the first day that we went to therapy?
I don't know if I remember the first day, but I do remember you being like, hey, I think we should, go to couples therapy together. And we had like a good friend or couples
Yeah.
that were friends that I think referred Vincent to us.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, because I was doing individual therapy at that time.
You were pretty resistant to it.
Yeah.
You didn't want to do it.
No, I didn't.
Because I think you knew you were about to get fucking exposed.
No.
You don't think so?
No. Why?
Why?
I think going into, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I guess going into therapy is,
There was points where
hard
you didn't want to
decision.
go to therapy. You didn't even want to show up. You said there was times where you were so angry you didn't even want to show up.
Mm-hmm.
There was times where you yelled at the therapist. You're like, why are you fucking taking his side?
yeah, because that's how I felt at the time.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, there was one time where I didn't want to show up to therapy because I was like, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then why'd you show up?
Something in my heart told me to go and figure it out.
Did you not want to show up because you were going to be late, or did you not want to show up because you were done?
Both.
Oh, Lizzie. I remember just for 2 years being in there together, having such hard conversations. It opens up a lot of things about you.
It does.
What do you feel like you learned the most about our relationship in therapy?
I think that it taught us how to see the other person's point of view and kind of like where they're coming from. And I feel like he also taught us how to fight together, but how to fight in a healthy way.
Which we still don't always do.
No, we're
It's
not
hard.
perfect.
No, but we're getting better. For me, I think the biggest thing that I learned is I was pretty buttoned up on the outside. Like I knew therapy language because I'd gone to therapy for so long, working on my PTSD. And so when we were with Vincent, I knew the words and I knew the phrases that they were looking to hear. It's almost like I was placating to the therapist. And it's not that I didn't want to work through things with you, but there was a point where I was like, dude, she's fucked up. She's got to fix this. This isn't me. That's how I felt.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because you would never apologize for anything.
Yeah.
And even when you did, it was the most stoic, half-assed bullshit apology.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's hard. I don't know, therapy is hard because it brings out it forces you to look at your past and understand your own like beliefs and conditioning. Whereas before I like started therapy, I feel like it was always like you. Like it's always the other person's fault, you know? And so I feel like therapy can really just kind of point the finger back at yourself, and that can be really challenging.
It's hard. It is challenging. I think the hard part about therapy too is like, where do you draw the line between going inward and being like, okay, this is something I need to resolve and work on myself, and where's the line between like, okay, well, I've done this and you're still not showing up?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you ever feel like you were doing the work but I wasn't showing up, or you were doing the work and then when we left there, I was a different person?
I'm sure at times I felt that way. I don't know, it's hard because when you go to therapy, like it can, depending on how much trauma you have, I feel like there's a lot to work through. What do you think?
About what?
Did you ever feel like I was a different
Yeah.
person?
I felt there's a lot of times where we would have these therapy sessions and he would open something up and we wouldn't have the time to resolve it. So then we would go home and we would get into fights.
Yeah.
And I think that's natural for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But there was weeks sometimes where I was wondering, I was like, we're not turning a corner here.
Yeah.
Remember when we had to have our own individual therapist, talk to Vincent to see if this was even worthwhile?
Yeah.
And I was reading about this. Vincent told my therapist, he goes, there's a lot of potential here, but I could see why if he walked away, I would understand. I don't know what he said to yours, so I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was not fun. Do you ever wonder like how we made it through that?
Yeah. It's a good question. It was hard.
Why did you stick with it?
I think I just stuck with it because I knew, like, deep down that you were willing to fight for something, like, or someone I was willing to fight for. And I knew that probably deep down that I had some things to work through and that I wasn't a perfect person. So I can either, like accept this and then work on it, or just completely, like, leave and try and start over.
What was one of the things that you had to work on for yourself that helped in the relationship?
I think it's stuff that I'm still, like, working through, you know, like your own personal beliefs of, like, feeling good enough, or having, like, compassion for the other person to, like, let your guard down and actually apologize. So, I don't know. What made you want to stick through it?
Well, hold on. Why, like, so those things that you're still working through, do you feel like you never got closure with Vincent?
Yeah, but it's interesting to look back at some of, like, the themes that I saw in my journal. Like, I hear face. Right?
You're driving me crazy with you touching your face so much.
I know,
There's
because
nothing
there is hair.
There's no hair there.
Okay. Well, it's interesting to look back at my journals from 2017 because I feel like some of the same things still kind of come up in my therapy sessions today.
Like
of, like, not feeling good enough, you know, like not feeling like a good enough, like I'm doing a good enough job as a parent or a spouse, or...
What makes you feel like you're not doing a good enough job as a spouse, as my partner?
Like when we get in fights still, you know, and being able to, again, like, let my guard down and just apologize if I did do something wrong. Like, I'm so stubborn.
I know. It's annoying.
Yeah.
because I am just as stubborn.
I know. Two very stubborn people trying to get together, but sometimes it's just hard for me to like let my guard down and just apologize if I did do something wrong, or like accept whatever you're saying to me and move on with it. You know, like, don't need to be right. Like, there's no medal at the end of this. So
Yeah, that's a valuable lesson, is that if you win the fight, you've lost it. You've lost it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you won, you've actually lost everything.
yeah.
Because it's not worth it. You have to ask yourself, what are you fighting for? There's so many times where we've been in an argument and we both look at each other and we're like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Let's just, do you care? No? Okay, I don't care either. We've just called it quits.
Yeah. And then we laugh about it usually.
Yeah. But what don't you feel like you're doing good enough in our relationship?
I think just when it comes to like the fights, like I said, just being able to be a good partner and accept whatever you're saying to me. You know, because no one wants to feel like they aren't seen or heard. That's all we want as humans on this earth.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What made you want to stay in the relationship? Especially after your therapist said that.
Yeah, I mean, I had planned my escape route like multiple times. I had decided that I was going to let you keep the house. I was going to take the dog. I was going to let you keep all the furniture. And I didn't care. I was just out. It didn't matter to me anymore. So I had planned the whole thing. And I was sitting in my car one day and I was on the phone with Nate. And I was just talking to him, right? Like, you need some friendly advice. And so I was talking to him. And I was like, dude, I feel stuck. And he said, listen, you always have a way out. You may just not like what it is. And I feel like in that moment, it was very freeing to know that, oh, I could just end this. In my mind, I was stuck forever. But there was another point where I was on the phone with John Davis, and you and I were getting ready to go to Minnesota. And I was like, dude, I think I'm just going to break it off. Like, I think I'm going to go home. Like, it was that day. I was going to go home that day and, like, end it with you. I was done. I had enough.
Yeah.
And John was like, dude, he's like, listen, you already have this trip planned. He's like, you're going to disrupt the whole thing. Like, she's not going to want to go home when she does. She's going to have to talk about it with her friends. He's like, just go on the trip. And if you still feel that way, when you get back, you can break it up. And then there's that moment at your grandfather's funeral, and that whole thing transpired. And then the next therapy session, we went there. Well, after that whole thing happened, and I basically was like, Lizzie, I stuck up for you. I was like, when everybody else turned their fucking back on you, I was the one who stuck up for you. I was like, I love you. And you said to me, I have it in my journal, you go, do you though? And I was so tired of proving myself to you that I loved you. I was so tired of you asking that question all the time. And so when we went back to that therapy session the next time, and basically, Vincent, you were talking about your situation with your parents, and I was talking about the situation, and he brought light that what went down was very similar to what you had been experiencing. And I looked at you, and you're like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that to you. Like, you were always making it about you.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment, you finally realize, like, I've never actually listened to Sergio.
Yeah.
And I'm painting this picture like I was the perfect one. I think a lot of the tensions came from me trying to build a business and constantly being in the business and ignoring you and always being focused on that. Do you feel like that was a contributor to a lot of our fights?
Yeah. I think that was really hard. And like, I was also going, like, it was the year after I finally quit dancing, after like my entire life. And so I was in a little bit of an identity crisis, trying to figure out like, who was I without dance, and how am I going to spend all this free time that I have now? And so I think that was hard. And then you were gone, and I think I was a little too dependent on you to like entertain me at all times, or like want to hang out with you all the time, when realistically that just is impossible, nor is it like always healthy either. So I think that was a contributing factor. But then like back to the moment or that thing, I feel like that was definitely a pivotal moment in our relationship where like I finally got the validation that I'm not crazy about all the things that I experienced in my past. But then it was also like the mirror was shining back on me and being like, oh shit, I don't want to be exactly what I'm trying to like not be.
Yeah.
So,
You know, I was reading through my journals and there's entries from 2017, 2018, but there's this massive gap in 2018. Like, I didn't even document. I talked about us calling off the wedding because we were stressed. Mm-hmm. No, 2019. Talked about us getting engaged. And in 2019, I talked about us calling off the wedding because we were so stressed.
yeah.
But I don't talk about how all that stress, I believe, led to my heart stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think this just happened by accident. There was so much stress going from 2017 into 2018 into calling off the wedding, and then bam, heart problems.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, knowing that we were fighting nonstop, and now all of a sudden, like, life or death was just being held up to the front of your face?
Yeah. That was really scary because like you're the healthiest person I like know. And I think that was just kind of like a reality check of like, holy shit, maybe we should try and get our relationship together because like this is a very serious issue and you never know like when is gonna be, or like whatever what your mom says, like we don't know what our ticket is.
Yeah.
So
part of me was happy that it happened. Part
really?
of me was happy that like you had to sit in that. Because I was so frustrated with you that I wanted you to feel like, oh, this guy's almost gone. And so like I'm in the hospital and I'm just like, you know what, fucking good. That's how I felt. I was still mad.
Damn.
Yeah, and it was a weird spot to be, knowing that I'm just sitting there being like, fucking sick. I'm glad I had a heart attack. But in the end, I was like, you need to understand, in my mind, because I was so frustrated. I was like, you need to understand, like, just how, just how serious this is. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just your fault. Right? There's a lot of other contributing factors that I had that led to it. But reading through that, it's very weird where I was.
Yeah.
What do you see differently now in our relationship? You know, obviously post being in therapy, you know, you being in therapy now on your own, and us having a kid. Like, what do you see different?
Just how far we've come. Like, we're completely different people from the time that we started dating, even to like being married, just the two of us, and now like who we are today with Luca and expecting our second child.
Yeah.
And so I think like I think I always wanted a partner and someone that's gonna like fight for you or just like be on the same team. And I didn't feel that way in the beginning, I think because of some of my own like beliefs.
What were those beliefs?
Just that like it doesn't have to be a competition, you know, like we're in a relationship because we're choosing to be in a relationship together, and like we can be a team together. We don't have to run on like our individual paths and just like be these roommates that live together. And so I think like just like being able to have like a partner and a teammate that like we're all fighting or we're working towards the same things that are on our vision board, like having that like end goal is just, I don't know, makes me feel like we're doing life together.
Yeah. I mean, I've always wondered, there's such like a negative stigma around therapy. I guess it's coming to the forefront now and people working within it. And it's not that I'm against talk therapy, but what I will say is that talk therapy has a massive hole in it.
Yeah.
Because all you do is just like circle jerk yourself and your emotions and your beliefs.
Yeah.
And there's never like the full rewriting of a story. Like you get perspective and that might help you rewrite the story, but there's never any actions coming out of therapy.
Yeah. My first therapist was all like talk therapy, and she was amazing, but I just found it very ineffective. And then we had Vincent, and I thought that was effective. But I think the therapist that I have now too, she's amazing, and we do like EMDR sometimes, and I think I feel like it all kind of depends on where you're at in the journey. And like, are you more at the beginning where you're like trying to heal your trauma versus like...
But you've been healing your trauma since 2016, 2017. So it's been what, 6 years?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So where would you say you're on the healing perspective? Like 0 to 100?
I would say I'm like 8.
An 8?
Yeah, because now, like,
So
our conversation...
0 to 100 and you're at an 8.
Oh.
Okay, well, we got a little bit of work to do here. 80%?
80%.
So then my question is this, right? That last 20%, is it actually just talk therapy and working through things? Or is there this evolution of it where you know enough to guide yourself and explore things, and then being able to take whatever you know and then realize, well, these are the actions that I need to take in my life to make the changes? So then why go to therapy when you can just, there's tools for you to lead yourself?
Yes, there are, but sometimes it's effective to have another person that you can talk to, and that you can like still have someone like hold that space for you and go back and look at like the moment and be the person that you needed at that time to like tell her everything that like she needed to hear, so like you develop like a new belief about yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like in that work, then you can come out of that session and be like, okay, well, I am doing a great job. Like I am doing exactly like what I say I want to do as a mother, and like
It's confirmation.
Yeah.
Confirmation,
but then you can also like be aware of your thoughts and beliefs in another type of like similar moment or experience, and just tell yourself, like, speak that affirmation. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's the difference between, right? I guess the more exposure I get to the coaching realm versus the therapy sector, there's definitely overlap in those two. Like coaches can hold space, coaches can ask questions, coaches can guide you. But a lot of times coaches can become consultants and be like, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. Like if you can't see it, then this is what you need to do. Obviously we lead you there first, but if you're still blind to whatever it is, then it's like, well, let's try this. I've never felt that in therapy. It was always, let's talk about this, let's reframe it, let's package it up so it's different. And then when you come back, make sure you bring this version of the story. Try to hold this version of the story with you, which is great. I think that's powerful, but I also think that there's this point where it can become a dependency on the therapist. Like, oh, I have to go to the therapist to work through this. And so if you don't have a therapy session in 2 weeks, well, then you're just sitting in there, just kind of like, okay, I need to either book another one before that, or I have to wait 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So how do you become non-dependent on the therapist, but dependent on what you know, your faith, and your tools?
Yeah. I think it all depends on the person.
Yeah.
And then the person's like willingness to change and get out of like, what do you always say? Like when you're sick of your own shit, that you just need to change.
Yeah. That's why I like stacking so much. You've never experienced it, but stacking is almost like a guided therapy session. You're these questions come up, you're responding to them, another question's prompted, and it's helping you rewrite the story, get perspective on it from different angles, and then at the end, there's like, well, what are the actions you're gonna take? And then those are the actions that you put into place.
Yeah.
And so for me, you don't have to go to a therapist. Doesn't mean you don't talk to your coach, right? I talk to Tim, I talk to Garrett, but on a day-to-day basis, it's me.
Yeah. I can see how that's been helpful.
Yeah. Have you seen a change in me since I've started kind of getting out of therapy, but more into the coaching aspect of it?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you have this fire underneath you to like work really hard on yourself, but you're working hard on yourself in order to be like the best version to everyone else, to me and Luca, to like your clients, to your friends, to your parents, your sister, like everyone. So I feel like it's just made you a little bit more like open to looking in the mirror. And I feel like in turn, that's also made me kind of realize that I'm not perfect and it's okay not to be perfect, and just like accept that.
Yeah.
And
Can you
change
say
it.
that you're not perfect just a little bit louder into the mic and look in the camera? Please, thank you. So one of the main reasons that we were fighting back then was there was this, we talked about it. I was building this real estate business. You felt like you were ignored. And because of that, this has started to resurface again in our current life. So I'm building this coaching company. I'm trying to expand it. I'm doing all of these things. What are your concerns right now?
Yeah. My concerns was just,
Was or are?
well, I mean, I think they always will be a little bit, is just like the time, because obviously you need a lot of time to invest in your own business and grow it, and especially with like what you like want to accomplish. And I do want to support that, but like also we have a family now, and like again, like expecting our second child, like it's hard to do it all on your own and not feel like I'm just taking a backseat too, you know?
Do you feel
to
like you're taking a backseat?
allow your dreams to happen. I think I have. I think the last, like, with you traveling, the last like 6 of 7 weeks or whatever it was, like, just definitely weighed on me this last trip.
Yeah.
Especially because it was one trip, you were home for like a day and a half, and then gone again for like another 5-6 days.
Yep.
Like that was just really hard, because when that happens, I don't get my time to go to the gym in the morning, and like I'm just on all the time. And I think,
So I want to ask, like in those moments, this is a great conversation for us. In those moments when I'm gone, and I know that 6 out of 7 weeks was tough, but on the trips when I'm normally gone, why not reach out to a babysitter to get time so that you can go do those things, or call my mom because you know she's offered? Why allow that to manifest, and then when I get home, you and I feud? Not that it's your fault, because I think there's two sides to this, but I'm just curious.
I have. I had help with your mom. I think your mom took Luca one day, and then I had a babysitter for a half day. But it's just, it's hard when you're that sole parent all the time. Like if he's,
Do you think it's hard to be the sole producer of the house?
yeah, I'm sure it's really hard. It's just hard when he's having a tantrum and like you can't turn to the other person to be like, hey, can you try?
Yeah.
You know, like,
Do you think it's hard to know that I can't turn to you and be like, hey, go make money?
yeah, I'm sure it is.
Yeah. And so I think in that, being able to not judge one another, not say one is harder or easier than the other, but to find a space where we can understand one another is important for us. My responsibility, then the way that we've defined it, is I'm the one who is trying to, yes, I am following my calling and my dreams, and I'm going after it. And in a way, I asked you what you wanted to do. You said stay-at-home mom was it, and we've revisited that a few times. And we can always change that. But in building this, I'm not building it just for me. I'm building it for us. And that is not what to justify me being gone. But what I am saying is that, like, the weight that you feel, I have a feeling it might be similar, not the same, but similar to the weight that I feel.
Yeah, I'm sure it's very similar.
Yeah.
It's just hard though, because when you're gone, like you're still only worried about yourself.
And
Like
that
I don't
yeah.
have the freedom that
Yeah.
you have to be able to like wake up whenever I want, make sure that I go get a workout in, like make sure I can go run this errand without like this other human.
Yep.
Like there's just more considerations that have to be taken into account, in my opinion.
And so the way I'm thinking it is, if I don't make money, we're fucked. So you're over here talking about having to run errands and deal with a baby who's crying. I'm over here thinking about, if I don't make money, our family's fucked.
Yeah.
And yet, the pressure of both of those relative to us as individuals feels probably the same. And so you can't look at mine and be like, well, mine's easier, and I can't look at yours and be like, well, mine's harder, or whatever it is, I think it's a true curiosity of what the other person is going through.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I couldn't do what you do. You gave me Luca for a day and I thought I was going to lose it. And if I were to put you in my shoes, you would crumble.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
I don't want to do what you do.
I don't want to do what you do. But that's the beautiful part about this is like, before this, we wouldn't be able to have these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the clients I work with, and I'm sure some of your friends that you have, like they have resentment towards their spouse because of stupid shit that they won't talk about.
Yeah.
And so they bitch to their friends.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's very common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's coming up for you right now as I say all this?
I don't know.
Anger, frustration?
A lot of things, yeah.
Like what?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of pressure to be able to provide for your family. It's hard because I feel like you wouldn't be able to do what you do, to be able to leave for like weeks at a time if it weren't for me.
What did
And
you
like,
say in that closet the other night when we got into a fight?
Like you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing without me.
And what did I say?
I know.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's also hard at the same time because, like, yes, I do support you because, yes, unfortunately, like, we have to have money in order to live.
But you can get on
And
OnlyFans and sell feet pics. I've asked.
No thanks. So, like...
If you would be interested in that, please let us know.
No, please don't. I don't know, just like
imagine hot baby mama on OnlyFans. Dude, but we would never have to work again. Why are you making me out here just like slave and fucking do all this shit? You could just bink, bink, throw it up and we would be done.
Feet are gross.
Okay. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Well, I don't know, just like when you leave for like those, like that amount of time, it's hard because I feel like some of like my dreams and goals kind of take a backseat because I'm not able to work out or like I just don't have enough time to like take space and time for myself to like recuperate.
What are your dreams and goals, right, outside of the one that you said working out? What dreams and goals do you feel like are on the sidelines when I'm working?
I'm trying to figure that out, and like in order to figure that out, I feel like I need time and space alone to like process all the things that are going on in my head. And when I'm constantly with or taking care of a child, like, yes, of course, my mind can be running at all times and all of that, but it's hard to get the space to get in touch with myself and like what I want to do.
I feel like your brain is a bunch of like open tabs on my MacBook, and then like it's just like at all times.
Honestly, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hard parts about two ambitious people, two people who want to strive and do things, also two people who are committed to one another and committed to raising a good family and being the best version of themselves. Is like there's trade-offs and there's seasons. And the one thing that I've always advocated and I will continue to advocate for is I want you to figure out what it is that you want to do and then go do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want your sole purpose to be a mom, unless that's what you want.
Yeah. I mean, I love it, and I love being part of his like every day and watching how he changes every single day. So I love it for this phase, but I don't know. I've also talked about being an esthetician and like working in like the skincare
Does that excite you?
industry. I think it would be really nice.
Does it excite you?
Yeah, I think it excites me.
You think it excites you or it excites you?
It excites me.
What about it excites you?
Just being able to learn about like the different lasers and needles and all those things to like make someone feel better about themselves. I think that would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
But I mean, additional schooling would be required for me to pursue that path, and so it's just something that I have to think about and like how do I manage my time as a stay-at-home mom, plus if that's something that I would want to do, and then also once getting done with school, like what does my work schedule look like?
So let me paint a picture for you. This coaching company grows to $100,000 a month, right? It opens up a lot of opportunities for us. Not only am I having more time because I'm not selling homes on the weekend, and I'm serving my clients during the week. I'm sure there's a few weekends a year where I have to go and do events, but for the most part, my time is restricted to a work week, which allows us to go do things as a family. It's more conducive to the lifestyle that we need to live right now.
Yeah.
But that requires a lot of upfront work and inertia to get this up and off the ground. And we have Luca, we have another one on the way in March, and we're trying to make our relationship stronger and better. There's only so much time in the day. So if you were me, what would you do?
I don't know how you manage it all.
No, I not manage it. I mean, you manage just as much as I do, just in a different way. But if you were me trying to grow this business and then also be the best in relationships, like what advice would you give me?
It's all about, I think, balance and us being able to talk about what we need in every moment. You know, like if you put more effort towards your business for a long time, for like the 6 weeks or whatever, then like it's easy for us to get disconnected because we haven't had any time with each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that's when like the balance maybe tips in the favor of our relationship. Like we're spending time up here in Grand Lake together.
Are you okay with that, like that push and pull of it both?
It has to be. I mean, that's life.
But are you okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just asking.
It's hard. It's really hard when you're gone for like that amount of time.
Is it hard when I leave on a Wednesday and come back on a Friday night?
It's easier.
Okay.
As long as you're not also doing showings Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's where things can get caught up, is like the lack of what I'm going to be doing moving forward. The biggest thing that I think that therapy taught us to really kind of bring this back is it is this open dialogue of communication.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's honest communication. And the one thing I feel like we still have a ways to go on is honesty. Not that we're not truthful with one another, but don't always speak what we need or how we feel regularly. And sometimes when we don't, that builds up and becomes resentment. And then there's like a tiff. Would you agree?
To a certain extent. I feel like we're pretty honest and we can have pretty hard conversations these days.
Maybe I don't give us enough
on
credit.
both sides.
Yeah.
Compared to like where we were.
Yeah. That's fair. But how about when I told you the other day that I need like affirmation of things that I'm doing? Like I need you to be like, hey, sometimes I just want you to be like, hey, you're doing a good job. And then you responded to me, and this is what you said: I'm not your manager, I'm not your boss, I'm not your colleague, I'm not going to do it. So I told you what I needed, and then that was the response I got.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that's the response that you got. I don't know where that was coming from. I think I was just angry. That's all.
Pregnancy hormones are crazy. Sometimes you turn into like an emotional troll. You're just like, you know that? I love you more than anything. But sometimes baby turns you into an emotional troll.
Yeah, it's really fun. You want to jump on this emotional roller coaster?
Nah, dude, I'm good. Testosterone does that to me.
One day you're crying, the next day you're
horn dog.
crabby.
All right. Well, this is completely going off the rails here. To the women out there, or actually scratch that. Yeah, to the women or to the men out there, what is one piece of advice you'd give about therapy?
I would say that it changed my life, and I feel like it changed our relationship for the better.
Yeah.
And that everyone needs therapy, honestly. I think being able to go back and look at your past and like understand your own beliefs and your own conditioning can only help you like become the person that you want to become. But then also looking back at those moments to heal those moments is like just kind of like a weight off of your body.
Yeah.
And so I would highly recommend therapy for anyone that is just feeling like the world maybe is out to get them, because it's not, and you can have a better life, like individually or relationally or just anything.
Right.
What would you say
To the men and women?
to all the men
To all the men?
and women? I
I'm
guess.
not going to speak to women. You just did a good job. What I will say to women is, like, just because you're emotional doesn't mean you're emotionally available. And I think therapy allows you to build relationships with your emotions so that you can understand them. And in understanding them, then you can make them available to your partner. But until you do that, they will always be a spectrum of emotions that if you don't know how to play, you can't share it. And so for the guys and the girls, whatever your capacity is, whatever emotions you can feel, there's probably a larger amount that you could tap into. And in doing that, that will create depth in the relationship.
Yeah. It's a good one.
Cool. I love you.
Love you too.